Good morning. It's Monday, September 6th, Labor Day. Labor Day is a national holiday. It's a national patriotic holiday. It's celebrated in the United States and in Canada, honoring workers and recognizing their contributions to society. Americans could have chosen any day to celebrate Labor Day. One option proposed by the Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Unions was the first Monday in May. On May 1st, 1886, the Federation was struggling to have an 8-hour workday. The 8-hour workday was a socialist dream because it didn't exist at that point in time. And it was not achieved without peaceful protests and work strikes, some of them which became very violent. There was one major event on May 4th in Haymarket Square. It's called the Haymarket Riot, or the Haymarket Affair. And after it was over, Chicago Mayor Carter Harrison, who attended as an observer, declared that it was peaceful, when actually what happened during that riot was far from peaceful. The protests were gathered in Haymarket Square, and at some point the police showed up, and a bomb was thrown at the police, and they never caught the individual who threw the bomb. But the police instinctively drew their guns and started shooting. The net result of that whole thing was 8 people dead, 7 of them policemen. And then after the riot was over, and in the ensuing days, 8 people were arrested and sent to jail and convicted by a supposedly biased jury. And then 4 of them were hanged. A 5th committed suicide. One of them had his sentence reduced to 15 years. And then at some point in time, the last 3 guys who were alive had their sentences completely commuted, and they were released from jail in 1893. That was one of the terrible, terrible events in the United States. And we are seeing a lot of that going on right now with the BLM movements, etc. Now, back to Labor Day. The first Labor Day was actually celebrated in New York on a Tuesday, September 5th in 1882. And then several states started having Labor Days because it didn't become a national holiday until 1894. And the reason that it's the first Monday in September is nothing special about it except that the federal government wanted something national between the 4th of July and Thanksgiving. So they decided on the first Monday in September. Pretty good reason, right? I was a young man, graduated from high school when I was 17, really didn't want to continue my education, and I went to work. And we were a union family. Members of the family belonged to District 65, which was the warehouse workers union at that time. And I got a job working there. And I was being paid $1 an hour, which was a big deal because the minimum wage was 75 cents. And I worked at several different jobs in my union career, and I realized that I wasn't going to get any place without an education. So then I went back to school when I was 20, and it only took me 10 years to get a degree for whatever reason. But in any event, my union experience was pretty good. For the most part, the union took good care of me. But I did get fired once for insubordination, and they didn't back me at all because I was wrong. But they had health care and they had other benefits, so it was a good thing. But as I look at the history of unions in this country from their beginnings, unions are in bad shape in this country, right? Because there aren't that many of them left. Took a look at at the history of unions. We had the AFL and the CIO and the auto workers. And then we got the teachers' unions. Let's not forget the garment workers in New York City in the 30s. All of those people who worked in that area were members of the garment union. And in my mind, it seemed like we had a lot of unions in this country and that many people belonged to unions. But that was far from the truth. In fact, the height of unionism in this country, 20% was the largest amount of the workforce that was actually unionized. So 80% of the workers in this country never belonged to a union. And right now, only about 10% of the workforce is unionized. And a very large percentage of that is in the public sector, not in the private sector. The private sector has very little percentage of union workforce nowadays. And one could ask why. Have things gotten so good for people that we really don't need to have unions anymore? Or is it because most unions at that time, at this time, are factory workers, people who work on assembly line, on meaningless, well, not meaningless jobs, but somewhat boring jobs. And all of those jobs have moved overseas or have moved to states where they don't have unions. Because in reality, there are only 7 states that have large union populations. And those states are California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Ohio, and Washington. Those states only contain about 1/3 of the total workforce in the country. So 2/3 of the country's workforce are working in places where they don't have unions. When we look at union density among, I will call them the more advanced countries in the world, our union density is very low. We rank as the 5th lowest trade union country in the world. Now, I know there are probably many of you out there that never had a union job. There are many of you out there who probably don't like unions necessarily. And here's another fact that might bother people. Membership in union is disproportionately older and male, and they're residents of the Northeast, the Midwest, and California. Based upon that, there is not a big female population in the unions, and there's not a big rural population in the unions. Union salaries for the same job are 10 to 30% higher than those who do those jobs as non-union workers. So, Labor Day, that's what we have. Labor Day, a national patriotic holiday celebrating all the hard-working people in the United States, whether they're union or non-union, whether they're male or female, whether they're old or young. If you are a worker, you have a holiday for you. And that's about it for today. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.